If you browse TV channels or streaming platforms, it seems like everything's reality TV nowadays. Between shows like The Bachelor, Real Housewives, and Love Island, there always seems to be some new drama unfolding. In the U.S., reality TV makes up nearly 40% of all television programming. While reality TV may seem like a fairly recent phenomenon, the genre is almost as old as TV itself. The first ever reality series aired back in 1948, but it wasn't until the early 1990s that it really took off.
A lot of people pinpointed it with the birth of the show The Real World, MTV's The Real World, in the early 1990s, which pioneered a lot of the kind of conventions of reality TV that we see today, kind of episodic format, a narrative arc over the course of multiple episodes, the kind of talking head convention where you see people talking about the action that's happening on screen.
That's Danielle Lindemann, professor of sociology at Lehigh University and author of the book True Story: What Reality TV Says About Us. Past The Real World, Lindemann says the first season of Survivor was also a big turning point for the genre. Survivor was the top-rated primetime network TV series that year, which was unheard of for a reality show at the time. In fact, it was so popular, it paid off all production costs with advertising revenue before it even aired. After Survivor's success, networks began to invest heavily in new reality show concepts that were cheap to produce.
Even for the positions that require things like writing, and I don't mean writing scripts, but like putting together narrative timelines in order to have an edited show that makes sense to viewers. Those kind of jobs aren't generally done by people in unions. The people on camera aren't actors who are part of SAG. They're not getting paid a certain amount based upon how they appear. So it's a much cheaper production in that sense. Even if there's $1 million prize, that's nothing compared to paying every member of the Friends cast $1 million per episode.
That's Andy Dennard, editor and publisher of Reality Blurred and vice president of the Television Critics Association. After season 1 of Survivor, he remembers how major networks launched shows like American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, and The Amazing Race, all of which are still on air today. But these primetime series weren't the only ones making waves. During the early 2000s, new releases embraced even wilder concepts. Take Bridalplasty, for example, where brides-to-be competed in a series of challenges to win plastic surgery. Or I Want to Marry Harry, which had women competing to date Prince Harry. Sadly, they later found out they were pursuing a Prince Harry look-alike.
We still see kind of big, high-concept ideas, but at least right now, I don't think we're seeing as much in the kind of like wild and sensational and ridiculous category as we did in those early years when every show was kind of trying to one-up the previous one in terms of shock value.
Dennard adds that social media creates another layer of excitement for fans. Using platforms like Instagram and X, viewers can talk about the show and get an in-depth look at each contestant. Before social media, most people on these programs returned back to their everyday lives after their stint on TV. Today, most capitalize on this experience, using it as a stepping stone to build a following online. We have to ask, why do we, the audience, care so much about these people on a screen?
We can't ignore the kind of train wreck effect where people watch these shows to feel better about themselves, right? Like, my life might be messed up in its own ways, but at least I'm not like that person over there competing on The Bachelor. So there's definitely that. But then it's sort of a paradox because we also kind of form connections with the people that we see on the show, even if we're kind of distancing ourselves from them. Because reality TV often traffics in these kind of broad archetypes. So there's usually like one person on the show you can kind of hold on to and say, oh, I'm most like a Carol or I'm most like a Bethany. And you can gravitate toward that person. And, oftentimes viewers form what's known as parasocial relationships. So we kind of feel like we know the people in these shows. We're almost friends with them. And that's facilitated with reality TV because unlike scripted shows, we're seeing people ostensibly as themselves, right? We're watching Kim Kardashian as Kim Kardashian. Whether or not there's actually any performance going on is another question. But we feel more of an attachment because we're seeing her as herself versus somebody playing a role on a scripted program.
Although reality TV is a form of entertainment, Lindemann says it also provides commentary on a wide variety of social issues.
For instance, like the way that we are expected to perform gender within sort of very narrow parameters. That's true in everyday life, but it's in some senses more true on a show like, say, The Bachelor, where, men and women, and only gender is seen as a dichotomy there. Only men and women are expected to perform gender in ways that are kind of incredibly like conservative and very, again, within the kind of narrow parameters. So we can see those things, these inequalities that exist in everyday life, we can see them play out in magnified ways on these shows.
Whether it's for the social commentary or pure entertainment, it's clear that audiences can't get enough. However, some reality stars have had enough.
There's been several lawsuits regarding Love is Blind and just the conditions of having people work essentially long days. Some people have said without access to food and water, then they get locked in hotel rooms without access to media, to their phones. They're all by themselves. And that can be a really disorienting experience and is not maybe clear to people who are signing up what they're actually getting into. I think there's all kinds of different ways in which treatment of reality TV stars and cast members and also crew members can really improve. Again, they're not represented by any kind of union. There is no standard of production or standard of care across the industry. And all of that, I think, would really help make the shows better ultimately, to take care of the people who are on screen and making this content for us.
Looking ahead, both Lindemann and Dennert say it's hard to comment on the genre's future. At its core, reality TV thrives on reinventing itself over and over again.
Having covered reality TV for about 25 years now, I really hesitate to make any predictions at all because it keeps surprising me. And even shows that I feel like I know well will suddenly pivot or change, or there will be a season that just completely comes out of left field, and I am never expected that at all. And I think that's one of the things that's really great about this genre, is that it can be unpredictable at its best.
To find out more about Danielle Lindemann, Andy Dennert, and all of our featured guests, visit viewpointsradio.org. For more behind the scenes and to support our show, follow Viewpoints Radio on Instagram, X, and Facebook. This story was written and produced by our associate producer, Grace Galanti. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.